Busch Gardens Tampa in Tampa Bay, Florida is a beautiful park and one of Florida's finest, with impressive wildlife enclosures and a formidable roller coaster collection. With Iron Gwazi finally opening to the public, Busch Gardens' roller coaster lineup has now been dramatically altered. I've visited Busch Gardens Tampa many times over the years and have a very good perspective of the rides there. Now that I've ridden what was formerly Florida's most expensive lawn ornament, I can now at long last rank the coasters of Busch Gardens Tampa. These are the top 10 coasters of Busch Gardens Tampa, ranked worst to first on Coaster Jawn. Today we'll be ranking the coasters of Busch Gardens Tampa by giving each of the park's 10 roller coasters a score from 1 to 10. These scores are based mostly on my opinion of the rides from personal experience, so if you disagree with any of my opinions, feel free to express your thoughts in the comments, but try to keep it light. That being said, if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for your continued support of Coaster Jawn, and if you're new here, please consider liking the video and subscribing to see more content like this in the future. Let's begin the ranking.
Let the great experiment begin!
Coming in at the number 10 spot is Air Grover, which shouldn't be shocking since it's the park's kiddie coaster. Located in the Sesame Street section of the park, like many of Busch Gardens Tampa's sister parks, Air Grover is a small-scale, zero-force family coaster opening in 2010. These coasters aren't much to write home about. Some twists, some turns, meant for the little ones. It's a good starter coaster for Busch Gardens, and that's all it really needs to be. Air Grover earns a score of 1.5 out of 10. Number 9, Sand Serpent, built by Mock Rides and opened in 2004. This Mock Rides Wild Mouse used to go by the name Cheetah Chase until that name was dropped in lieu of Cheetah Hunt opening in 2011, and now goes by the name Sand Serpent. Before that, Sand Serpent was located in Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and was simply named Wild Mouse, just spelled differently. I decided to go over the history of this ride because there isn't much else to say about it. It's pretty outdated and really doesn't fit in with the rest of the park. Sand Serpent is also one of the weaker Wild Mouses out there, and I could really see the park replacing it in the next 5 to 10 years with another family-friendly ride, such as a Gravity Group coaster like Oscar's Wacky Taxi at Sesame Place. Sand Serpent earns a score of 3 out of 10 for being a mildly thrilling ride, better for families than thrill seekers. Number 8, Cobra's Curse, built by Mock Rides and opened in 2016. If I were recording this video last year, I would have definitely had Cobra's Curse ranked higher, because it's a super unique spinning coaster with fun, in-depth theming. However, after my most recent visit in March 2022, you could tell that this coaster, at only 6 years old, was aging badly. When I first rode Cobra's Curse in 2017, it was such a blast because I knew nothing about it, so every twist, turn, and spin was so unexpected. Not to mention that the ride looked great since it was still brand new. Since then, it seems like the park has really prioritized maintaining other rides and sections of the park, like that big purple one near the entrance. What's it called again? Steel Barney? Who knows. Anyway, Cobra's Curse could really use some love. Its ride experience is now significantly rougher, and I don't know if it was because of the train's wheels or the track alignment, but either way, there were multiple vicious potholes throughout the ride. Hell, even the elevator lift was rough. Along with that, the paint on the track looks bad, and lots of the effects didn't work. It's a shame, but Cobra's Curse has dropped in my rankings because of all these factors. Its redeeming qualities still bring Cobra's Curse up to a score of 5.5 out of 10, because it really is a very fun and unique spinning coaster that just needs some improvements. Number 7, Scorpion, built by Schwarzkopf and opened in 1980. I really wanted to put this behind Cobra's Curse, but it's aged so much better than the latter. This classic Schwarzkopf Silver Arrow looping coaster is the oldest at the park, but with a fresh paint job amongst other recent improvements, it's running as well as the day it opened. Scorpion was one of my first inverting coasters growing up, and in typical Schwarzkopf fashion, it delivers some great positive G-forces. It doesn't look like much, but don't let Scorpion's small stature fool you. It tears through its smaller scale layout, staying mostly low to the ground, which gives higher speed and intensity than expected. Scorpion is also a good intermediate coaster, allowing young thrill seekers, like I once was, an opportunity to go upside down on a coaster for the first time. Scorpion narrowly beats out Cobra's Curse with a score of 6 out of 10, with smoothness being the deciding vote. Number 6, Tigress, built by Premier Rides and opened in 2019. Before that big purple coaster at the front of the park was built. Dang, I still can't think of the name. Titanium Thanos? No, I'll think of it eventually. Anyways, before Grimace came to the park.
Let her go, Grimace!
Before, that. Tigress was announced as somewhat of a stepping stone coaster, a way to please the masses temporarily before announcing the big one. As far as placeholders go, you can't really ask for much better than Tigress. While the Premier Skyrocket 2 has been cloned across almost every SeaWorld park, I think that it's been cloned for good reason, because I really do enjoy these rides. While the so-called comfort collars are really annoying, and the trains are nearly impossible to walk in and out of, the ride layout and launches are very fun. Tigris features a back-and-forth LSM launch, which has become the style of many new launch coasters like Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando and Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. The forwards and backwards accelerations are super fun, and once you hit the final launch, you're shot straight up and whipped upright to the top of the ride. Before going into the only official inversion of the ride, a slow hang-time-filled Heartline roll. You'll hang on for dear life during this element, as it genuinely feels like you're going to fall out of the train. You then get some pretty great airtime and laterals heading back down as you go through a non-inverting loop and eventually hit the brakes. Skyrocket 2s definitely fit a high level of thrill into a tiny plot of land, so I thought that this was a great addition to the park. I give Tigris an 8 out of 10 for its quick speed and whippy elements. Number 5. Kumba, built by Bolliger and Mabillard and opened in 1993.
What?
Yes, I know that many of you have a soft spot for this classic B&M sit-down looping coaster, but I just don't. Kumba has certainly aged well, and it is also a fun and aggressive ride, but I guess it just doesn't resonate with me as much as it does for others. First of all, I'm not the biggest fan of inversion-based rides. I love a couple of good inversions thrown here and there in a ride's layout, like what RMC does, but when a coaster does virtually nothing other than going upside down, I just can't be that much of a fan. The intense positive G's coupled with the 7 inversions make for an impressive layout, but it almost always leaves me nauseous. What I can appreciate about this ride is what it's done for the park and the industry as a whole. Kumba was not only the first B&M at Busch Gardens Tampa, but it was also the first B&M in all of Florida. Since 1993, plenty of other B&M roller coasters have been installed throughout the state. Some since have been retracted or removed entirely, but Kumba has stood the test of time and continues to impress to this day. Kumba is probably the most photogenic coaster in the park, with its interlocking corkscrews and stunning teal and red color palette. Kumba is also surrounded by walking bridges that weave over and under the ride's layout, so there's lots of different angles that you can see it from. As for the ride experience, it's butter smooth, and I only noticed a couple of moments of headbanging, but overall the intense loops and whippy transitions make this one of the best looping coasters out there. One other complaint that I have with Kumba is that it feels very far off the beaten path, which I guess works for a wilderness-themed park, but also makes this area feel forgotten about. This whole section of the park is usually pretty empty, which is why I firmly believe and hope that Kumba will be replaced by a B&M Giga coaster in the next 5 years. Obviously, I'd be bummed to see Kumba go, but I think that we can all agree that a Fury 325 level Giga at this park would be actually insane. So no, I am most certainly not a Kumba fanboy, but it's still top 5 in the park, so I don't think that I'm the biggest hater either. It just goes to show how top-heavy Busch Gardens' lineup really is. To give Kumba a score, I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10, because I certainly can appreciate its smoothness and intensity, but I guess that intensity is just a bit too much for me. Number 4. Cheetah Hunt, built by Intamin and opened in 2011. This family-style Intamin multi-launch blitz coaster has a very special place in my heart. So yes, I'm a little bit biased towards it, but it does feel like every time I re-ride Cheetah Hunt, I enjoy it less and less. Regardless, I have an affection towards Cheetah Hunt because it was my first large-scale steel coaster, as well as my first launch coaster when I rode it in 2012. Yes, I got into coasters pretty late in the game, as I was already in middle school at this point, but it really was a monumental coaster for me to get over my fear of roller coasters, so it holds a special place on my coaster count. As for the ride's layout, it features 3 launches, one right out of the station, one shortly after, which hits the top speed of 60 miles per hour and goes up into the Windcatcher Tower, and a 3rd launch later in the ride that goes up into an airtime hill. Speaking of that twisted Windcatcher Tower, it really is a unique element that is stunning to look at, gives good views of the park, and in my opinion is iconic to Busch Gardens Tampa's skyline. Yes, this element slows the train down a bit, but I think that the drop off of it is good enough to make up for that lost speed. Cheetah Hunt's 4,429 feet of track makes the ride feel like it lasts forever, as you race through trenches, past waterfalls, and in and out of the wilderness. This out and back layout truly does simulate a sprinting cheetah, and I've always loved it for that. Now, I will say that a big knock for me against this ride are the pointless over-the-shoulder restraints. These used to not bother me so much, but with every recurring ride I get on it, the pain from the unnecessary and uncomfortable restraints gets more noticeable. Now, if Busch Gardens Tampa could put softer shoulder straps on Cheetah Hunt like the ones found on Maverick at Cedar Point and Fahrenheit at Hershey Park, then the ride would benefit greatly. Better yet, I don't see any reason why the park couldn't install lap bars like the ones on Sandy's Blasting Bronco at Nickelodeon Universe American Dream. That ride goes upside down way more times than Cheetah Hunt, which only inverts once. Busch Gardens, Intamin, make this happen. I don't think that Cheetah Hunt does any one thing amazingly. It's not really known for great airtime, laterals, inversions, or even launches. But overall, I think that it has enough of each of those types of elements to make the entirety of the ride experience an epic one. Cheetah Hunt earns another 8.5 out of 10 for being a very fun and adventurous ride all around that I also have a soft spot for. Number 3. SheiKra, built by Bolliger and Mabillard and opened in 2005. This B&M dive machine was the first of its kind in the United States, as well as the first dive coaster to break the 200-foot mark. Themed to an African hawk which dives straight down to the ground to catch its prey, SheiKra does just that, as it looms 200 feet high over the park, holding riders staring straight down at the ground with a holding brake for just a few seconds before releasing them, falling 90 degrees face first to the earth. Prior to this first drop, the chain lift and slow turn high above the park are remarkable, and both give insane views of downtown Tampa and the rest of the park. SheiKra also features an Immelman inversion, a turnaround, another drop, another turnaround, a splashdown effect, and a helix into the brake run. On paper, SheiKra's layout doesn't offer much, but I think that its impressive stats lend to the craziness of the ride. The first drop is incredible. The Immelman is smooth and graceful. The second drop gives some great airtime, and the splashdown is an iconic element on the ride. The first time I rode SheiKra was in 2017, and I was absolutely horrified. Here's a look at 18-year-old me finally getting around to conquering my fear of heights.
Oh God! Oh my God!
Another great aspect of this ride are its classic B&M over-the-shoulder restraints, which, contrary to Cheetah Hunt's restraints, are actually comfortable. Compared to the new B&M vest restraints found on Valraven and Cedar Point, SheiKra gives amazing airtime because there's no vest to weigh down riders' bodies. Though I now prefer Griffin at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, I've always loved SheiKra since my first ride on it, and it rounds out an incredible top 3 coasters at Busch Gardens Tampa. SheiKra earns a score of 9 out of 10 for awesome airtime, thrill level, speed, and gracefulness. Number 2, Montu. Built by Bolliger and Mabiard and opened in 1996. Yet another B&M comes in second place on this list, and it's one of the all-time best. Montu is widely considered to be the best inverted coaster on the planet, or at least in the US. While I personally put Banshee at Kings Island and Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg ahead of Montu in my personal coaster rankings, I will say that there might be a recency bias there because I haven't ridden Montu since early 2020. Regardless of where you rank Montu, there's no denying that it's elite. Standing at 150 feet tall, Montu tears through 7 inversions, including 2 vertical loops, an Immelman, a zero-G roll, a corkscrew, and of course the highlight of the ride, the famous Batwing element, which sort of reminds me of a better version of a Cobra roll. Themed to the Egyptian god of war, Montu weaves in and out of multiple trenches while hardly giving you a moment to breathe between elements. I think Montu combines a lot of the best aspects of other rides at the park, or since Montu's older than a lot of them, maybe the other rides borrowed aspects from Montu. Either way, Montu has the inversions of Kumba, the speed and intensity of SheiKra, and the trenches of Cheetah Hunt. Like all the other B&Ms in the park, Montu features the classic B&M shoulder harness, which allows riders to feel the full force of the ride. The only headbanging moment I think comes with the corkscrew, but other than that jarring element, the ride is smooth and comfortable. One of the biggest knocks against this ride, in my opinion, was the recent repaint, making it much more bright yellow, which to me now looks more like Goliath at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, rather than an Egyptian-themed coaster. But oh well, minor nitpick. Montu is a nearly flawless roller coaster, but I'm not the biggest fan of B&M inverts in general, so I give Montu a score of 9.5 out of 10, because I can respect it for the kick-ass inversion machine that it is. Finally, the number 1 coaster at Busch Gardens Tampa should come as no surprise, but it's Iron Gwazi, built by Rocky Mountain Construction and opened in 2022. Oh yeah, Iron Gwazi, that's what it's called. Oh, I knew I'd remember. Well, now that we've got the bad jokes out of the way, from the ashes of the now defunct dueling GCI wooden coaster Gwazi comes the massive overhaul that is Iron Gwazi. Though Iron Gwazi uses the original Gwazi station, queue buildings, and some of the supports, this rebirth of a roller coaster really couldn't be any different now than what it used to be. I won't go super in-depth into Iron Gwazi's layout, as I already did that in a recent ride review, which I'll link above, but I'll cover the highlights. Iron Gwazi is the perfect example of what Rocky Mountain Construction can do: remodel old, rough, boring wooden coasters into world-class steel wood hybrid coasters. This hyper-hybrid coaster, located near the front of the park, towers over nearby Tampa neighborhoods at 206 feet tall, making it the tallest hybrid coaster out there and the tallest coaster in the park. Themed to a purple and green crocodile, Iron Gwazi has an impressive lead car and eye-popping purple track. Along with insane speed, strong intensity, and relentless pacing, Iron Gwazi features 12 airtime moments, including the first drop, an outward banked hill, a wave turn, as well as plenty of other twisted airtime hills. While Gwazi is certainly an airtime-focused ride, my favorite element of the ride is the demented death roll, which spins riders 540 degrees while plummeting them down to the earth at rocket speed. Iron Gwazi also features an overbanked curve and a zero-G stall, making for a mishmash of several different iconic RMC elements. Besides the death roll, the other key moments of the ride are the absurd outward banked hill and the wave turn over the station. Both of these elements give some of the greatest sensations of sideways airtime of any elements out there. Even though Iron Gwazi's theming is a bit lackluster, I will say that most of the other coasters at the park really don't have much theming anyway, so it's not much of a negative. Also, even though I greatly prefer the first half of Iron Gwazi's layout over the second half, I can't deny the incredible pacing of Iron Gwazi, as it truly never lets up until it hits the brakes. Iron Gwazi earns an obvious 10 out of 10 because it really is one of the greatest roller coasters of all time. Busch Gardens Tampa and RMC knocked it out of the park with this edition, and I can't wait to see what the future has in store for this park. Like maybe a Giga coaster?
Please. No, Chowder.
Pretty please.
No, Chowder.
But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So what did you think of my ranking? I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments whether you agreed or disagreed with these rankings. Hit the like button to help YouTube share this video with others, and of course subscribe to Coaster Jawn if you haven't yet already. Until next time, this has been Coaster Jawn. Ride on.